We begin tonight with President Obama making joint appearances now with his much-debated political mojo.
I didn't run for president to kick these challenges down the road. I didn't run for president to play it safe. I didn't run just to keep my poll numbers high as possible for the next election. I ran to solve problems for the next generation. I ran to get the hard things done. That's why you elected me.
Mr. Obama hit what sounded like the campaign trail today in Nashua, New Hampshire, riding a wave of newfound momentum that's been building since his State of the Union address last week and since his face-to-face rhetorical duel with House Republicans on Friday. The president was in New Hampshire today to unveil a new economic proposal. He wants to take $30 billion of bailout money already paid back by Wall Street and use it to create a fund to give loans to small businesses to create jobs. While Mr. Obama was in New Hampshire today pitching the jobs idea, New Hampshire's Republican Senator Judd Gregg was back in Washington trashing the idea in a verbal joust with President Obama's budget director.
The law is very clear. The monies recouped from the TARP shall be paid into the general fund of the Treasury for the reduction of the public debt. It's not for a piggy bank because you're concerned about lending to small businesses and you want to get a political event when you go out and make a speech in Nashua, New Hampshire. That's not what this money's for. This money is to reduce the debt of our children that we're passing on our children.
Now, on the subject of the debt and the deficit, Republicans keep trying to get back on offense, as you heard right there, and as you saw in the visible frustration in Senator Gregg's face. But the president is not ceding them that ground right now. Today, for a second day in a row, the president pilloried Senate Republicans for bailing on a proposed bipartisan deficit commission. A number of Republicans who originally supported that idea ended up voting no when it came to a vote once the president said he supported it.
This law failed by 7 votes when 7 Republicans who had co-sponsored the bill, had co-sponsored the idea, suddenly walked away from their own proposal after I endorsed it. So they make a proposal, they sign on to the bill, I say, great, good idea. I turn around, they're gone. What happened? Now, look, it's one thing to have an honest difference of opinion on something. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can't walk away from your responsibilities to confront the challenges facing the country because you don't think it's good short-term politics. We can't afford that.
Mr. Obama teed up Republicans on the stimulus package today as well, another subject on which Republicans have been trying to stay on the offense. But President Obama, again, no longer letting them.
Some of the very same folks in Congress who opposed the Recovery Act and claim that it hasn't worked have been all too happy to claim credit for Recovery Act projects and the jobs those projects have produced. They come to the ribbon cuttings and they found a way to have their cake and vote against it too.
On the issue of health reform, again, the president went on offense, saying the country is at the 5-yard line. It's time to push it into the end zone. He's hitting Republicans for attacking his health reform plan without presenting what he considers to be a credible alternative.
At the Republican caucus, they said, we've got a plan. It's going to provide everybody coverage at no cost. And I said, well, if that were true, why wouldn't I take it? My wife, Michelle, thinks I'm stubborn sometimes, but I'm not that stubborn. Say, okay, let me think. I could have everybody get health care coverage that's high quality, and it's free, which I'll bet's really popular. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go through the pain of really working through this hard process in Congress, getting yelled at and called socialist, because, you know, that's how I roll. I'm a glutton for punishment.
If he seems like he is enjoying himself there, I have a suspicion it's because he is. Is this a normal post-State of the Union presidential rollout, or is this what year 2 of the Obama presidency is going to be like? Joining us now is Chris Matthews, the host of Hardball here on MSNBC. Chris, thanks for staying around.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's fun.
It is. The president
It's a fun time these last 2 or 3 days to watch politics come back into our lives and democracy at work and two sides going at each other instead of just one side.
Well, I saw you talking about this on Hardball today. So yesterday I saw your segment titled, Has Obama Got His Groove Back? Yeah. And it certainly seems like he's got momentum. But do you think that translates to him actually getting stuff passed?
Yeah, you know, I had this image of it's very retro, but this image of an old cowboy movie where the soldiers, the guys in the uniforms are on the horses, and they're inside the fort. And the Indians are attacking outside, these allegorical Indians from cowboy movies. And they're attacking the fort. And I always wondered, why did the soldiers leave the fort to fight the Indians? Why didn't they stay inside the fort and let them shoot the arrows in and hide behind the fence? You know why? Because they're cavalry. And that's the reality we're looking at. He's cavalry. He's happier on his horse.
Does that mean he's in danger, though?
Out there fighting. Yeah, he's been under attack. And I think the fact of the matter is, and I think you talk to people up in Massachusetts all through this hosannas about Scott Brown. Scott Brown won because the Democrats took punishment for about a month there and didn't do anything about it. The president was on vacation in Hawaii. I'm not knocking him, but that's where he was when we were threatened over Detroit by that attacker. They didn't handle the first reason. The Secretary of the Homeland Security did not say the right thing. The system wasn't working, apparently. They did make a deal for Nebraska. There was a lot of things that didn't look right, and there was a lot of incoming, a lot of bad stuff. Bad karma going on there for about a month, and Scott Brown went out there and took advantage of it. They never polled on that election. They never knew it was coming. But I'll tell you, this White House took that hit very hard. Not only did they lose their 60th vote, they lost any sense of arrogance, which is probably the good side of this. So the president's out there campaigning. He's on the opposite of vacation. He's going into the Republican stronghold in Baltimore last week. He's going to the basketball games. He's re-engaging with people. He's exploiting his personal popularity, his regularness. You notice he's bringing Biden along with him. Just as company, but also as the symbol of that sort of excitement of the campaign, the two guys out there on the road together.
Well, also picking New Hampshire, I'm sure. I mean, New Hampshire's a real state. It's not just a prop for electoral politics.
It's also a reasonable state that does care about fiscal responsibility. It's not a joke up there.
But, you know,
and also he caught the Republicans in that snare. When those 7 members pulled out, having co-sponsored, he had them. That's the ultimate proof of treachery. When you co-sponsor a bill and then you're not there for the final vote, well, which is the truth? Right. You believed in the bill or you didn't. Well,
in him positing it against honest differences of opinion, those are okay. He's implicitly saying this is dishonest, that you're not...
It's treachery.
Well, on the subject, though, of the things that they've sort of done wrong, on all of those things that you mentioned, it seems to me like there's good rejoinders. I mean, that he did respond to the Christmas bombing faster than Bush responded to the shoe bomber. That Janet Napolitano, if you take her in context, you can make a different argument about it. And I raised those things...
He wasn't running against Bush in Massachusetts. It didn't look good at the time by the standards of the time.
But the point is that they didn't rebut. They weren't out there fighting. They took the abuse. They could have rebutted, and they really didn't. Now it seems like they're taking all the existing facts, even on issues like how the Christmas Day bomber was treated in terms of his Miranda rights and all of those things.
It turns out something we didn't know, that he went in for surgery and stopped talking when he came out before there was any talk of Miranda rights. In other words, the sequence was off. The way it was presented by the critics was they gave him his Miranda rights and he just was lawyered up and stopped talking. No, he stopped talking before he got the Miranda rights.
But something's changed in this White House because the critics were making those charges, and the facts were what the facts have always been. Defense. But we didn't hear anything back from the White House. Now all of a sudden we're getting a ton of.
Well, they were hiding in the fort. To use my allegory, they're hiding in the fort, letting the arrows come in the fort instead of going out and fighting in the field. He's in the field right now. It's great to watch because I think he has a big problem. His number did go down, and when his numbers went down, he lost his oomph on Capitol Hill with that number of senators he needs. Because I do think they're going to go for a very closely run effort to win health care. It is their last chance, but it is a chance. And the only tricky question is, does the Senate move first on reconciliation alongside the bill they already passed, or does it hope that the House can pass the bill with some kind of deal that they will then act on reconciliation in the Senate? It's a sequence problem right now. But they can't do any of that until they get the president's numbers up. This president's got to get up around 55, way moving north, so that then they can hold on to the 50 senators they need. You have to understand, about a week ago, they were losing 50. They weren't going to get the 50.
Do you think right now
they have to get
if they had to vote right now?
Right
do you think
now, I don't know. I think it's right on the nail. It's right on the nail because they get 50 plus the VP, they win. But it's so close. And by the way, at the end of a couple hours or 20 hours of debate, they might be down to 40-something. So I believe the president wants some padding. He wants to let this thing marinate for a while. I do have some intel on this, by the way. They want to let the thing marinate for a while, get the president's power back, his political capital back. It's a February. We're not talking beyond February. Get the power back, then go back on the Hill, get the senators to vote 50 votes, plus the vice president, maybe get 53 or more votes, get a good, solid vote with reconciliation to complement the Senate bill. But the tricky part, and the hardest part, let's face it, the heaviest lifting is to get 218 in the House.
Yeah.
And to get to 218, either with Stupak or go to the left the other way. They've got to make a big decision, Pelosi's people. Do we go with the 218 or 220 they had before, or go to another combination by ditching Stupak or modifying it significantly enough to get the pro-choicers? It's really tricky.
Look, on the bigger issue,
they can do it, but it's so close right now.
Well, it seems like it's still in motion. They just announced today that they're going to have a vote next week in the House on this issue of the insurance companies' antitrust protections.